Welcome to season 2 of Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentasana. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and trailblazers who share their raw, real stories of perseverance, resilience, and building a life and business with impact. We talk about everything from entrepreneurship and family to purpose and living fully. My goal is to inspire you to start that dream, push through the hard seasons, and wake up every single day ready to live the life you were born to live with passion and purpose. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. Today on the show, I have my friend, Missy Ashton. She is incredible. Missy's a keynote speaker. She is an executive coach and a leadership expert. And Missy works with individuals in the corporate space, helping them with their leadership skills and navigating leading teams. And she's also a mom to 6, if you can believe that. I have 2, 3, really, if you count my stepdaughter. And I just can't imagine raising 6 kids and doing all that you do, Missy. You are truly incredible. And you have a new grandbaby that just arrived in the world. So it's so exciting, all that you do. And I have been waiting at least almost 2 years probably to have you on the show. I'm so grateful for you being here. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, I'm so excited that we have a new little Reese Olivia that was just born, and just we're in love.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I saw the picture on social media. I was like, oh my gosh, like a baby girl. I have to say, I gave birth to 2 boys, and I love boys and they're amazing and they've helped make me who I am. But there's something about little baby girls. And my stepdaughter, didn't meet her till she was 6. So I literally, by the time I came into her life, she was almost outgrowing dresses. So that was a super bummer for me. I got her for a little while in the dress, but her name is Olivia. So I love the name, and I have a really good friend whose daughter's name is Reese. So beautiful, beautiful names.
Our youngest daughter's name is Olivia, and they named her after our youngest daughter. And so, anyway, it's really special
Well,
name.
that is so special. And we're definitely going to get into talking about your youngest daughter, Olivia, and the incredible story around that. But I'd love to dive in a little bit and talk about kind of your professional experience, your background, what you're doing, and how you help executive leaders and how you coach them. Because I know you work primarily or have worked primarily with men up until this point, and now you're kind of transitioning and looking to work with more women in leadership roles. Obviously, there's a lot more women leaders now than there probably ever has been. I'd love to dive into that conversation. First off, and to how you got into executive coaching and why that was your calling, and then what you're doing today.
Well, how I got into it really truly fell into it. I had been speaking quite a bit, and I had been hired to come out and speak to a group of executives at an executive retreat. And they flew me out, and I spoke and did a kind of a workshop style there. And, went really well, and it was great, and had a great time, and wonderful people. And the company that they had hired me to come and speak to, those guys reached out to me and asked if I could coach them on some of the things that I taught, if I'd be willing to work with the principals of their company to like go into more depth about what I had taught about. And I was like, sure. That's how it started. And so I started to work with these guys in their organizations, and then they ended up, like, they referred me to people that they knew, and they had me work with more people in their organizations. And so I didn't set out to work necessarily with men, or even executives, really. That's how it started, and started being referred, and had a lot of success, with them in their lives and in their organizations, and really changing things. And the way that I coach men or women it's leadership, and it's self-leadership from the inside out, meaning that what is going on around us in our lives, in our businesses, even in our families or whatever, really it's a reflection of what's going on inside of us. And we can't really lead anyone, whether it's an organization or a team, or even if it's our family and our children and our kids, until we know how to navigate and lead ourselves. And, really, we don't even know, like most people, most of us, we grow up and we don't know how to do that. We're not taught that in schools. We're rarely taught that by our parents. We don't really know how to do that. And me knowing how to do that is because I figured that for myself. Like there was a lot of things in life not working for me, and I had been through a lot of trauma and a lot of things, and it wasn't working, and I had to figure it out for myself of like what is wrong with me. And
Yeah.
so it started a journey for me of like how to lead myself. What does that even mean? How do I guide myself? How do I create the life that I want? There was a point in my life, Jen, where I literally, like, everything that I wanted and dreamed of in life, I had. I had a beautiful family. I had a handsome husband that loved me. We lived in a gorgeous home. We had all the things, white picket fence life. Now we had problems, like things had come our way. You know, our son had been in an accident and we'd had some really struggles that we'd been through. But, you know, really like I had everything that I wanted, but inside, I couldn't really feel any joy.
Oh my gosh, Missy, I think that you bringing this up right now is so powerful because I actually speak about this in my book as well. And I think there's a lot of women out there who are hearing you say that, who are like, oh my gosh, that's me. There are so many of us who strive to have all of the things on the outside that look like the picture perfect life that we thought we wanted, and we're not unappreciative of having them, but it's this disconnect from feeling all the things that life was supposed to provide you. And until you uncover your connection to your why, you can't feel those things.
No,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't realize how disconnected I was really from myself. And I grew up in a family with a lot of addiction and substance abuse. And I remember having this moment that I was like, okay, I'm the sober one in the family and I can feel nothing. I was really numb. I was living a numb life and I wasn't using any substances or, you know, that was never my thing, but I was numbing through, constantly, you know, the busy word. I mean, I was, you know, taking care of everyone and everything and myself. And I mean, not myself. I said that wrong. Taking care of everyone else except for myself, putting everyone else first, everyone else's needs first, which, you know, as women, especially, like we want to do that. We want to care for our children. We want to care for our, you know, our spouses. We want to do that. But you know, we find ourselves often, and I'm including myself in that, to where we leave ourselves off the list. And we're building everybody else's dreams and life, and you know, we're making sure that they have everything, and then we really don't tend to ourselves. We don't even pay attention to what do we even need? What do we even want? Like, what fills us up? What lights us up? I feel like for women, we often get lost in, you know, and this is really the definition of codependency, which we could go like way, way deep into that. But of like really like this lack of self care, and not even just taking care of ourselves, like in the physical sense, or, you know, like things, we might even do that, but like really caring for our soul. Like
yes,
what lights us up inside that you know makes us feel alive. And there are like, yes, being a mom, like yes, there's parts of that, but when we are doing, you know, things like that, like being a mom or even working in a career that we love, but we're not taking care of ourselves and the connection that we have to our creator, to ourself. We're not, you know, really caring for ourselves in a way that we can feel.
yep. I love this conversation so much because it's so much about what I speak about, what I coach about. So many women create an identity around what they do for others.
Yes.
And they may take care of their hair and their nails and look the part, but their connection to self and who they are and how they identify is around what they do for others. And that's an amazing, and for so many, I mean, I think for decades, if not a century or more, that was the identity of expectation of women, right? And so I don't think there's anything with, of course, that's admirable. Of course, that's our nurturing, intuition to be that way. But it's also, not self-love to disconnect from who you truly are and stay empowered in that and allow that to come forth as well. And I think that's where I see so many women giving up who they truly are because they think that they have to be all these things to other people and aren't allowed to have that connection to self.
Well, I think that that's so true. And, listening to you say that, so I think society plays tricks on us. And just like you said, we were really like, there was a time when we were like, this is what your identity is. You are really supposed to stay home and you need to raise kids and your family. But then society came along and then they tricked us and said, oh, wait, that's not working. Well, actually your identity is you need a career. And you need to do that. You need to put yourself first. You need a career too. And also you still need to do these other things and you need to be a mom and do all the things. You're going to need to do both of those things all at the same time. And the lie is that either one of those are like true identity.
Exactly.
So I'm not saying like, this isn't a conversation about which one is more important. They're both important. And we want to fulfill our lives in both of those ways. One of the things that is like the most important to me that I hope, like at the end of like, when they're having my funeral and they're going to talk about a few things, I don't know, I don't know how long it'll be, but they'll probably talk about a few things. I hope they talk about what I've done as a mother. I hope that's part of the topic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then there's other things that I've created and I've done and I've served people and that I'm really proud of in my life. And maybe it'll get brought up and maybe not. That's okay. But they are all important to me is what I'm saying. But they actually are not they're not my complete identity.
Correct. I love that. And I think you're explaining it so well. I've tried to have this conversation several times, and I think you are so in tune with the alignment between who you are as a mother, who you are as an executive coach, who you are as a keynote. It's like you don't have a compartmentalized identity. It's all fluid within you, and you exude that. And I think more women will find true joy when they can do that.
Yes, and I had to work to figure that out, and I had to even figure out like why was I not happy? It didn't make sense to me. Why was I not feeling any joy? Why was I numb? I had done all this self-work and I thought like I shouldn't be feeling this way, but I was feeling that way. And it really took me on a journey to figure that out. And so then when I was asked to come and like coach and like go into depth on some of the things that I was teaching, I had figured a lot of things out. And so I was able to share that. And it's really both men and women in our society. Like we are we're just taught to numb. Mm-hmm. We are taught to not feel feelings, men and women equally. Now it shows up a little bit different ways, but it's the exact same thing. So we grow up in this society that teaches us to not feel. And so I've been able to like take what took me like, I don't even know, like decades, long years of work and figuring it out and doing the work. I've been able to take the knowledge and what I know and guide people so that they can figure that out faster. They don't have to take 10 or 15 years or 20 years and try to figure it out. Like I've been able to create some programs and containers where I can say, let me just show you what I know and how I got there, and let me guide you through it. And you mentioned it just really happened for me that I, started working with a lot of men, and that's been amazing. Like I've worked with incredible men and they're beautiful humans, and I've really, really enjoyed doing that. But I've had this longing, because I am a woman and I love working with women to be able to bring what I have to the guys that I've worked with. And I really want to offer that to women.
It's so powerful. What you do is so needed. First of all, in corporate America, I think there is a shift, luckily, and we are seeing a shift in the power mentality, even with men and women. But I mean, I'm thinking back to my corporate career. I was in media sales for 15 years, a very different time, 90s and early 2000s. And the mentality around leadership was very different. It was very masculine. We called everything the boys club. If you had a woman as a leader, she had to be tougher than any guy in the room. She kind of was, they had all kinds of nicknames for that type of woman back then. And off the top of my head, I don't even want to mention any of them, but I will just say I was one of those women who I didn't play the game. Like, I came in and I just kind of played neutral. I never wanted to come in as like, I'm going to, butt heads with you. I was always like a power team, and I worked well with men and women. And I think that's why I had success in corporate, because I knew how to play that game. Although I didn't ever allow myself to fully step into who I was, because I didn't have leaders who were able to see that, embrace that, and see me and my gifts, because they weren't threatened. And having, like you mentioned early on, having their own stuff going on internally would actually impact how they led. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about like how that's different now, or how you teach women and men through what you've learned and self-leadership.
Okay, I love this. And I love to teach about this. I love to talk about this. And so, what you're talking about, and I see this, and we say that this is how it used to be, but it still kind of is this way. Not kind of, it really is this way. Is that if you have a strong leader in a man, in an organization, that will be respected and revered, and he will be known as a strong, like a powerful leader. If a woman is that way, there's like not so nice names for her. So what I teach, and this is really, really powerful, is that there's these, in leadership, okay, in any given thing, there is a masculine and a feminine side to it. For instance, if you have to deal, let's say and this is true for a mother of, I'm a mom of 6, if you're a mom of 2, or like if your organization is your family, you're a leader. Okay, if you're a CEO of a company and all these people work for under, or you are an entrepreneur and you're running an organization, you are a leader. It's the same thing. It's exact same principles, and it's true for both. Okay, and it's also true whether you're a man or a woman. So let's say there's a problem going on that you have to deal with. There's a difficult conversation that needs to be had, and you need to hold someone accountable. Okay, you have to do that as a mom, especially if hello, teenager world. That's tough. You got to do that. So, but if you're the head of an organization or a department or whatever your team is, there is holding someone accountable, for instance. There's a quality in leadership that you need to be really direct, and you need to be able to say what the expectations are, and you need to be really direct with that.
Right.
Okay. That's a masculine trait. The feminine trait in that is to be diplomatic, to be warm and empathetic, okay, and compassionate. So the power is in doing both of those things at the same time, is holding the tension and being direct, saying exactly what you need to do, like putting the expectations, while simultaneously being kind, saying things in a way that's not hurtful, in holding space for they're likely struggling, whatever that is. So it's this masculine and feminine tension, and really a paradoxical, traits that needs to be held. In the power is the tension in the middle.
So good. Wow. I'm just thinking about all the previous bosses I've had and wishing you were there during that time. My life would have been so much different in corporate.
So that is where the power. And so I help I do help men and women see like where are we on there's different things. Another example of like if you're an entrepreneur or a mom, like you have a busy schedule, you have a lot to do, there's a lot to accomplish. And so you need to be able to be flexible and you need to be able to pivot like when something comes up. But then the other side of it, the masculine side of it is there's a list of things to do. We need to get them done. There's a structure and we need to like stay task oriented and get this done. So how do I do it as 6 kids? And and 2 of them have special needs. And like I feel like I'm like, Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers Circus. Like I'm leading a circus every day. But in reality, how am I able to do all these things is I have to be flexible. I have to be able to pivot when things don't go like planned. Because as a mom or business owner or, anything, they are never going exactly. Okay. But I also have to be able to, have the structure of like, okay, these are the important things that need to get done today while we're pivoting, while I'm being flexible. So there's these paradoxical traits in leadership and they're masculine and feminine. And when we can do both of them at the same time, it's so powerful.
It's so powerful. So would you say, because I coach and I teach a lot on, and this is interesting just to me for a second, I'm taking this personal. When I'm coaching my clients, a lot of what I do is tap into gifts and strengths and talents. So I'll say, okay, your innate gift is you're a really good communicator. You're really good at being able to sit down and have powerful conversations and hear and be a good listener and this and that. We need to work on your ability to be direct. So I'm all about coaching to strengths, but then how do you bring in those things that may not be your strengths and still manage that and create the whole leader?
Well, I love that you brought this up because, and this is a big part of what I teach, okay, is so our weaknesses are strengths overused, okay? So you just use the example of like being direct. Like it's important that you're direct, okay? So if you are just direct, but you are not, while you're being direct, you're not diplomatic about it. You're not warm. You're not kind. You're not empathetic. Okay. Who wants to work for someone like that? Who does? Like no one. No one. No one. But if you are only just like, let me give you a hug. It's going to be okay. I understand. Let me just warm and empathetic and like very kind. You're not going to be able to lead anything or anybody anywhere, and you're not going to be able to hold anyone accountable. So the really good example of this is being the mother of a teenager or father of a teenager. So you have to be able to be direct and say, you have a curfew. It's at 11 o'clock. These are the rules. You have to have the car home by then. You have some very direct, these are the expectations. Okay. And if you are only like direct and expectations and you're not warm and empathetic to a teenager and there's no like the compassion and understanding and the relationship side of things, you don't tend to that at all, but you're just very direct and this is the way it is. And we're going to, this is the military. This is what we're doing. You will likely that teenager is going to be rebellious. And likely you will not have a long-term relationship with them.
That's sounding a little too close for comfort with me because that was my father and he didn't have the nurturing side, but was very direct and hardcore and, and that's exactly what happened. Like when, as a child, all I wanted to do was get his love and approval. And by the time I was a teenager, there was a lack of respect and rebellion because I didn't get that other side from him.
Well, to answer your question, and I think that's so true for so many of us parents, but you take the same thing and it's true in an organization as well. But, back to, parenthood, where, really we can see this. So the strength comes into it. To answer your question before, how do you help them be direct when it's not their nature? Or how do you help them to have compassion? Because we tend to kind of be in one camp or the other. Naturally, we just kind of fall into that way. And so whatever is easy for you, you're going to really try to lean into the other side and it will make your strength stronger. So, like, for instance, a parent who is, there's, you should be direct. You should have accountability. You should have expectations. But if you could bring in this kindness and warmth and emotional connection, and I'm here for you, and I love you, and I see you, if you could marry those two, then the teenager actually feels safe. And also the leader or the mom or the dad, we feel at peace.
True.
So when we're operating in a way, when we're way out of balance on that, we don't really actually feel at peace on the inside. And the people that we're leading, whether it's kids or an organization, they do not feel safe with us, whichever way it is. So it's just the power is in being able to recognize where your strength is, what's the other side of that coin, and how can I make that stronger so that it's actually a strength.
That's amazing.
If you look at the other side of it, to where you are just like the mom of teenagers, and you're like, whenever you feel like coming home, honey, like, I love you. Here's money.
My kids would love that, by the way.
No, it's fine. You can spend the night out, with whoever. It's all right. If you're just only the friend and the kind, and you're the cool mom, and you can really do anything, and I love you, like, you can see that that's going to be a big problem. It's going to be a problem.
You see it, and you can see it and watch it in the kids that are being raised in that way, how they end up as teenagers and adults. Yeah.
Well, and then the employee or the team member, they also will not flourish in that. They don't know what their expectations are. They don't know they don't really know what they need to do. It creates, there's no boundaries there, and they will not flourish. They also, it's interesting because they also won't really feel safe and like trust you, because they don't really know what you actually want. Exactly. This is something for me where I was really out of balance. I had to learn to be direct.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you get to a point in life where you're not going to be successful. And I mean, for me, it's running our restaurant business, and you can't get your teams to respect you if you're not direct.
Yeah, and so when you can do both at the same time, and you can be direct, and you can give your expectations, and while also being warm and empathetic and diplomatic about what you say, it's like people will do anything for you.
Yes,
you can get people to do anything because they feel they will respect you, and they know that you care, and they know what you expect, and it's powerful.
Right. And you're actually creating a real team where you're a part of the team, but you're leading the team, but you're a part of the team, and they feel part of it too. And then they feel they want to rise up to meet you where you are. Right. I think that's one of the most powerful things, and so needed in leadership, this philosophy, this mentality around, creating the dynamic between the masculine and the feminine, and coaching to the strengths as well as bringing up the weaknesses. Such powerful stuff. So obviously, Missy, you got to this place in life because you've been through a lot. I mean, none of us get to where we are in our growth and our capacity. And I mean, I think you would agree with me that we're always growing, and we're always learning, and we're always evolving. But you personally have been through a lot. And I would love if you wouldn't mind just sharing with our listeners a little bit about your story, kind of, what you had to go through to get to where you are today, and some of the moments, if you will, that shaped you.
Well, that's a big question. And there's been a lot of different chapters in my life that, there's been a lot that has happened. One of the big things, and I was, I'm trying to think, I think I was in my early 30s when our oldest son, at the time he was 11, actually, so I would have been in my late 20s when this happened. He was 11. Am I right? I'm like way off. I'm like not doing.
You've had too many kids. You've been through too much.
Too old, and so I can't remember. But no, I would have been in my young 30s when he was in a car accident leaving baseball practice, and suffered a severe traumatic brain injury that left him in a coma. He was very severely injured, and we were told that if he lives, if he ever wakes up and comes out of a coma, that he'll be in a permanent vegetative state. So you can imagine. At the time, we had three boys. Our youngest was a baby. Rhett was the baby at the time, and we had Cade, who was he was around 5, and so this accident, it's just a car accident that happened. He was leaving baseball practice. He was riding with his cousin. It was, just a thing, just this random, thing that happened and completely changed the entire trajectory of our lives. There was before that day and after. So with Travis, he was in a coma for quite a while. And when he did finally, was able to wake up and come off of a breathing machine, he did live. But he was at the time, actually, he was in a vegetative state. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't blink his eyes at will. He couldn't squeeze our finger at will. And so it took us on this journey of my entire, really my I was in the mom life world at the time to now I was trying to help him to survive and relearn everything in life. And that was a really, really long journey, and it didn't come quickly. I remember that following year, and after he had woken up, and the very first time he was able to respond to something. And the very first time that we really had a response out of him is there was all these nurses and therapists around his hospital bed, and he was awake. His eyes were open. He couldn't look at a certain place, but he was just kind of staring forward. And it was a really tense moment. And all these therapists were like, Travis, if you're there, squeeze my finger. It was just, and we're all hanging on, waiting. Is he going to respond? Is he going to do something? And my husband, being the person that he is, said something that really kind of a little bit off, inappropriate in the moment, but it was really funny. And Travis laughed out loud.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. I have the chills. I've never heard you say it that way before. Wow.
So that was the beginning of this journey of, okay, he's there. He's in there. He knows us. He's aware of what's going on in the room, even though he can't move any part of his body right now. And so there was this long journey of, he was in rehab and had to completely relearn, literally everything. He had a feeding tube for, I want to say, several years, and they told us he'll never be able to eat. He will always have a feeding tube. He'll always be in a wheelchair, which he has been able to. He no longer has a feeding tube. He is able to eat. He does walk. He does have, he has some permanent disabilities. He's not able to speak. He's nonverbal, but he can understand everything, and he has his long and short-term memory, which is really unheard of. He doesn't, the right side of his body, he's not able to really access a lot. He doesn't have a lot of use of his right arm and hand, but he plays golf one-handed, and he's actually pretty, he really hits the ball straight, and it's really crazy how he does that. So I'm fast forwarding, a long time, and it was a very, very long journey. And you can imagine, this was years and surgeries and brain surgeries, and he had, there's all kinds of things in the whole journey with him, and helping him to get to a place to where he could, function and eat, and, things to live, just normal, daily living skills. And so my whole life for years was just completely immersed into that. I can only imagine what that was like for you. Being a mom of 3 boys and having your oldest son, having to bring him basically back to life, is just so unimaginable to me. But it doesn't surprise me that you were capable of doing that. You definitely have that soul
spirit within you. You're a fighter, and quietly. I see from the outside, and I'm sure that experience just changed you forever.
Absolutely. We aren't the same people on the other side of that. I'm speaking for my family as well. Like it's changed who we are. My kids are grown now. We have a younger daughter that came to us later in life, but like our youngest biological son is 20, and our kids are adults and grown now. But growing up, they had these special gifts. Like if there was someone in their classroom that had a special need and like wasn't able to speak for themselves, or they were in a like my kids, they would go to my kids for help without even knowing. My kids, they seem to have this ability to be comfortable with people with disabilities or somebody that's different. They all are they're just, they have these gifts that I think has come to them, that I don't think they would have had not having a brother go, like with growing up with a brother with a disability like that.
I can't even imagine. It gives them a special window to the world that others may not see.
Well, and for me, like, and so like I see now, like when we're in a tragedy or a terrible thing, if we look for it, if we allow it, and we don't usually see it when we're like in the middle of it, but as we keep going, like there's gifts that come with it. There's always gifts. There's little treasures that come. And one of the gifts that I think for me that this experience gave me was the gift of perspective. So like moving forward, and like as we had other children, and as they grew up and they played all the sports and they were involved in all of the things at school and activities, and they were, leaders. And so like if they didn't make captain of the team, we didn't care.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I mean, not that we didn't have any expectation out of them, but we just like, it just puts in perspective, like what really matters, and what's important in life. And like, my kids that are healthy and well, like the perspective of like, yes, and they're high achievers. They all have achieved, and they did all these things that, yes, we're proud of. But what the perspective is like the ability to see like what beautiful humans they are.
And you put the values in the places where it really matters.
It gave me perspective,
Yeah.
it gave me perspective to see what really matters in life and what really doesn't.
Yeah, it's so powerful. You would never wish this experience on anyone, but yet it does have its gifts that come as a result of what you go through. And you, to add to that, now have this new child in your life, or newer child in your life that came to you later. Maybe through that journey, you were open to it. Do you want to share a little bit about Olivia?
Yeah. So, if you fast forward, I'm trying to think, of course, I'm not going to do math on yours. I'm not going to try to, I'll mess it up, but I want to say, it was probably, 15 to 17 years later after Travis's accident. We were, we had moved to a different state, back to our home state of Texas, and we were living our life, raising our kids. And, we came across, the situation with this little girl that was being removed from her biological family from the state, from CPS. And she was this little girl. She was not quite 2 years old. She's completely blind. And she has a lot of also medical conditions. She was born, her body doesn't produce the hormones. And anyway, I won't go all the way into it, but she's a lot of medical issues. I was called by the state. They couldn't find a place to place her because of her special needs and like all that was required. Like she's going to need shots. She's going to need all these things on a daily basis and medications. And you're going to have to manage all these health things. And she's blind. And she was very, at the time, she was developmentally, like physically, she had really been neglected and, was just really behind on everything. And she's going to need a lot of therapy and a lot of care. And they called me and asked if I could come in and like, would I consider taking her? Of course, I'm like, no, no. And, I have 5 kids and like, I'm really busy. We're building a house. We've got all these things. My kids are in all these sports and activities. Like no, I don't think so. And, they called me several times and they said, well, would you just be willing to come in and talk to us? And so I went down to Child Protective Services and I walked in and, there's this little teeny tiny girl and she's just like sitting there rocking back and forth. She didn't say much at that time. And, they asked me if we would be willing to take her until they could find another home. There was no place to take her home to. And I went outside and prayed. I said, I'm gonna need a minute, and I prayed. I recognized that I was praying that there would be a family that was capable of taking her, that was actually capable of taking care of her. And it occurred to me while I was praying for that we actually were capable. And it was one of those moments with God that I was like, wait, that's not what I meant. But I had this realization. And so literally called my husband. He doesn't even know about this. Nothing. I called him and I didn't even bring my cell phone in. I had to use their phone. And so on the caller ID, it came up with something like Texas Women and Children's Services or something. And he like answers the call. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm okay. And he says, are the kids okay? Kids are okay. And I tell him what's going on. And like, we need to make a decision right now. And we said a prayer together. And he said to me, like, this primarily is going to, like, you're going to be the one that primarily is going to be take care of this responsibility. And he said, I will support you in that, but you decide, and I will support what you decide. And I said, okay. I didn't want to do it, but God was telling me to do it. And I knew it, and I couldn't deny it. And so I packed up this little tiny girl, and she had a diaper bag with her, and she's rocking back and forth, and I'm not saying anything. It's hot. It's in Texas. I bring her home, and I remember setting her up on the kitchen counter, and she was sweaty, and I thinking, how can I make her comfortable, and her little feet were sweaty, and I took her shoes off, and there was a cigarette burn on the top of her foot. And I realized in that moment, like, she wasn't just in a bad situation. She was in a very dangerous situation, and she's completely blind. And so I had this overwhelming, like, inside of me come over me that we were supposed to protect this little girl and care for her. And it was interesting because later it never worked out to find the other family that they were looking for. There was no other family. And we had this realization of like, okay, like, cause I'm thinking, I can't do this. I can't do it. I can't. But then as we were doing it, I was realizing like, well, okay, we are doing this. And my older kids just like loved her and helped take care of her and played with her. And she would go to, she went to all of their sports, and she'd be like, is this football or is this soccer? Or is this swim? She didn't know, like, is this baseball? But she cheered, like, she cheered for them and she cheered for their friends. And like, she grew up doing that and like being a spectator, couldn't see anything, but was just there. And, she did fit in. And like, my kids really, really like rallied around and helped take care of her, and she just fit in. But back to like, I had this realization, like, there's no other family. There is not another family. Like, we are the family. And so I remember praying, and saying, okay, like, I know this, I know what God is telling me. And I remember like having this conversation saying, okay, well, I hear you. And I know that we're supposed to do this, but like, my husband's not going to go. You're going to have to convince him. Like, you're going to need to talk to him. Like, I don't know, what you need to do. And it was so interesting because, he came to me and, he talked to me and he said, I just have had this overwhelming feeling that God wants me to protect this child and provide for her whatever she needs.
That's amazing.
And we knew that that's what we were really being called to do. And we've been able to do. And, not only me as a mother, I mean, there's been a lot of medical and a lot of therapy and a lot of advocating through school. And, it's been a lot, but also, my husband his name is Jed, and, he's never hesitated to provide like whatever she needs, whatever it costs, and to whatever it takes to protect her and care for her and make sure that she's, is safe. And so really, we've had different roles in that, but really been a team, our family has really come together. And it's so interesting because we talked at the beginning of the episode of our new granddaughter. So at the time when all this started, our son was in, I think he might have, I don't know, he was 8th grade or high school, Rhett. And he had a school crush girlfriend. And they ended up getting married after high school. Later, they're married and they just had their second baby. But when Caden, his wife, was just a kid, she would come over and she would help take care of Olivia, and she would babysit her. And, she was a teenager. And, when they told us what they were naming her, she said that Olivia was the first little girl that she had ever loved and had ever taken care of.
This is such a beautiful story. I mean, the love, the heart, the purpose, everything that you're just exuding right now is just touching me. And I know touching so many of our listeners, that so many lessons in this, that God never gives us more than we can handle. That sometimes our greatest pain becomes our greatest purpose. I mean, there's just so many moments, beautiful moments and lessons in your story, both with Travis and with Olivia and your other children, and just who you are and how you show up in the world and answering the call is just such a great message to all of us, that we all have a purpose in this lifetime, that we don't always know what that purpose is. And we can have many things that we do that make an impact in the world. And sometimes the purpose that we want, or the purpose that we think is our calling, is one, and then God calls on us for other things that we may not think that we're prepared to do, but he never gives us more than we can handle. And you are such a beautiful example of that, Missy. And I'm just so grateful to you. And now, I mean, it's so apropos that you're writing a children's book with our mutual friend, Jessica. And it's so apropos because you're just like this nurturing, loving, amazing mother. You're an artist, you're a writer, you're all the things. Tell us a little bit about this project.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. And Jessica is too. And this is another thing, like you can just see God's hand woven through all of it, and just kind of like how like he guides, and it's really how this came to be, I feel like, is as beautiful as the book itself. The book is actually based on the life of Jessica. And if you don't know her, like, I think you guys have done a podcast.
It was yes, a couple episodes ago. So if our regular listeners have listened to the story of Jessica, then they'll know what it's about.
So it's based on the life of Jessica, and she grew up, and I'll tell you the name of it. I'll give you a sneak peek. It's called Maggie and the Magic Mirror. It's based around the story of Jessica's life. But what's so beautiful about it is in the story, I think that each one of us will find ourselves in it. And this is a story written for girls. And I'm loving that this is my third granddaughter, and I have 2 daughters and 2 daughter-in-laws that I love and adore. And so this book is written to be read to little girls. But it is also a book for the reader. It's a book for the mom or the aunt or the grandma who's reading the book to them. And it's about what we have talked about, and really about what your whole mission about the story is about, like connecting to who we really are, and to connecting to what's already inside us. It's always been, and like finding our purpose in life. That's not all these identities, but like who we're created to be and like what we're created like and put on this earth to do, and connecting with that. And that's when we like come alive. Yes. And we feel like the word, like, you know, I have a whole, like, I talk about like creating extraordinary, like that's when life becomes extraordinary and it feels extraordinary, and it actually is extraordinary. And, but it's inside of us all. And in this book, the story of this little girl, you know, she finds the magic is within her. And it's always been with it. It's always been there. And it's always, the voice that's inside of her is the voice of God. And it's in every single one of us. In like when we wake up to that and like we stop numbing and we come alive and connect to that, we just like blossom into like the butterfly that we are born to be. So to say we're excited about this book is an understatement. I mean, we're so excited about, first of all, it's been so fun. We have felt like little girls creating and doing this together. We've had a blast. But it's just such a heartfelt project, because the message behind it is something that is so dear to each one of us, and we like are so excited. Like in my mind, like I can see, I can see grandmas and moms like reading this book with their daughters and opening conversations and, you know, teaching their daughter and like then remembering who they are and connecting with that. So like I can, when I see that in my mind and like that it's happening, like I'm like right now I have chills and like it gets me so excited. So thank you for bringing up our book, and we can't wait to have
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? This is my mission in life, is to help women see who they truly are. And you're starting at a very young age with little girls. And if they can stay in that place, because we all come into this world with this purpose and we know it when we're little. And then as, you know, we go on, sometimes life circumstances, other voices, limiting beliefs, things start to quiet that voice and that inner knowing. And so it takes work to uncover all of that. And if you can send a message to little girls through this book to stay in tune with that connection of who you truly are, that's the greatest gift of all. I mean, that is huge. So I am so just grateful to you and Jessica for doing that, and for writing this book, because this is my heart and the impact that you're already seeing, the vision of the impact you're going to make, which is why you know that it's the right thing, that you're doing this. And it's just so amazing. And I love everything that you're doing, Missy. I mean, for anyone out there who is questioning whether or not they can handle something that they're going through right now, or questioning that they have a purpose, or questioning, you know, whether or not they're a good leader. I mean, you have shared so many nuggets of wisdom with us. And I just want our listeners to believe that anything is possible, that you can get through even the most unimaginable things, and you can thrive beyond that and make that pain your purpose in life. And you have certainly done that. So I want our listeners and audience to know, how can they find you? How can they follow you? How can they connect with you if they want to hire you as an executive coach, or if they just want to hear more of you and get more of you and learn where they can find your book and all those good things? So share that with us.
So you can find me on social media, Melissa Lynn Ashton. My friends all call me Missy, but on social media you can find me anywhere with that. And like send me a DM, reach out. I'd love to, I'd love to meet new people, and I love to. How can I? One of my things is like, I don't want everybody to have to figure things out, and take 2 decades to like figure it out. Like, I just love that. Like, okay, I have a path. Let me just give it to you. Let me just show you. And, it lights me up. It just, it brings me so much joy to be able to help others navigate. And still, like, we're all navigating still. Like, we never arrive. And, I don't have it all figured out, but I have figured out a lot. And I do know how to, even when, like, you said something that I wanted to mention, is you said, God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And I'm going to argue that a little bit, a
Okay,
little bit,
go for it.
because there's been a lot of days that I'm like, I don't think I can handle this today. Like, this is just like, what? Like, I can't. I'm like in a, like, want to be in a like fetal position in the corner and not come out. That's how I'm feeling. And I want to say that he gives us power beyond our own.
So good.
That's so true for me. So I have people all the time say, how did you do that? How did you make it through that? How did you get through this thing? And I just want to say, I didn't. I didn't. But I did know where to find the power. And I did know that it was available. And I did turn to that. And then I received power that's not mine. It's not mine. It's beyond me. And I just want to say to anyone that's listening that is struggling and you're like, nope, I can't handle this. Actually, it's the power beyond of your own power. It is available to you through God. That is something that I know for sure.
Absolutely. And we all can turn to faith when we don't think we can handle it. If nothing else, there are many nights I lie in bed and say, I'm putting my hands up. One of my favorite songs, and I've mentioned it several times on this show, is Jesus Take the Wheel by Carrie Underwood, because there are moments where we're like, okay, I'm letting go. I can't do this anymore. And I have to have faith and trust that God has my back and that he will find the way forward. And that's so well said and absolutely true. So thank you, Missy, for sharing that. And me too. Me too. And I just adore you. And I'm so grateful for all this time that you've shared with us and our audience. And I cannot wait to continue the conversation. I'm sure we'll have many more. And when your book comes out, we'll have to have you back on the show to talk more about it. Maybe we'll get you and Jessica together. That would be fun. I would love to do that. That would be so fun. So thank you for everything you've poured into us today. And for those of you who are listening, we'll have all the information on Missy and how to get a hold of her, connect with her on social media. All that will be in the show notes. And again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this episode beneficial. And if you feel compelled to do so, share it with a friend who might benefit too. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Reach out to me anytime on my website at jenmentasana.com.